taste of heaven, oh, the fullness of his love. Out of all he chose the seventh, fresh anointing from above. I have tasted living water, nothing like this none will find. Oh, the beauty of God's presence when we meet for holy time. Oh, when life here on earth is ended and there's only righteousness, New Jerusalem descended with the saints of God to rest. I'll forever sing God's praises, for he'll be forever mine. Then face to face we'll be together, God and I.
It is a joy, it is a privilege to be here once more in the land of the living, of course, by extension, the open portal. I know you have missed the open portal because we haven't had the open portal in 2 consecutive weeks. Why? Because the Seventh-day Adventist conference in the Cayman Islands would have had 2 remarkable programs that I believe was necessary for our listeners to be a part of. And of course, what we do here at Flashpoint is to collaborate with the church, because we are Seventh-day Adventist first, we are Christian first, we are Seventh-day Adventist Christian second, and so whatever we do is to collaborate. So any program that the conference has from that level, we will indeed support it. So I want to say, if you missed us, we miss you too, but we are now in the portal, and that's what matters. You are alive. I know it has been a long week, it has been a tiring week, but guess what the old prophet says? That they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. I want to welcome you in the name of the Father, our Son, and the blessed Holy Spirit. It is good that we are alive and we are well. I want to welcome those who are on our media platforms, namely YouTube, Facebook, and those who will even see the posted picture on Instagram. And I heard Ellie said that she's now on TikTok as well. Thank you so much, Ellie, for the work that you've been doing with Flashpoint Media and of course Flashpoint Media Ministries. I want to welcome my local people. This program could not be what it is without our people. I want to let you know that we love you, and we want to say thanks for the many ways in which you have support Flashpoint Media Ministry. If you're from East End, we want to say happy Sabbath. If you're from West Bay, Georgetown, somewhere in Grand Cayman, or even Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, we want to say happy Sabbath. How about our friends from over the seas? We want to say welcome. Remember that this is your program. Remember that we want you to always be a part of this spiritual journey, be a part of this spiritual experience. Of course, we believe here in the open portal that when the church in heaven is at worship, then the church on earth should also be in worship. For God has created the Sabbath day for you and I, so that we can rest and we can connect to Him, not just rest physically, but rest emotionally, mentally, and even psychologically. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very interesting program lined up for you this evening. We'll be talking about restoring healthy masculinity. And I sometimes, as a presenter, sometimes it's important to listen, to sit at somebody else's feet, to hear what they have to offer, and to hear what they have in store. And so I it would be remiss of me not even to say something about the person I have brought in. I know by now his face would not be unfamiliar to some of you, but for the benefit of those who are joining for the first time, or for those of us who are seeing him for the very first time, even before I go to his biography, it is somebody I know who is selfless. I don't know any other thing about him in terms of when it comes down to service to humanity. And I can tell you by just working with him, he always has a positive word for young people. Not just for young people, but everybody that he comes in contact with is a guy who speaks his mind. Usually what he is thinking, that's what he's going to say to you. And it's usually more so uplifting words. I've met him when I just arrived in the Cayman Islands. He has told me how difficult it was for him as a youth, and today he is using those life experiences as building block to empower other young people. But as of lately, he has a newfound love. I'll tell you a little about that. But I must say that the person I have brought in today goes by the name Robert Lynch. He is an author. He's a media marketing specialist and communication specialist as well. And he works with individual groups and companies to communicate, connect, and grow. This guy is an avid communicator. But as of lately, he found a new love for masculinity. Not just masculinity, but healthy masculinity. He believes that if we fix men, then naturally our women will come in place. He believed that if men should set some standards, then automatically women would fall in place. He also believed that masculinity is not the absence of feminism. What do I mean? He means that men and women together are powerful, but he also believes that they are individual roles. The man is differentiated by who he is as a man, and the woman is the woman just because of her biology. And so this evening, happy Sabbath on this blessed Sabbath. I believe it's a conversation that has been tabooed. It's a conversation that we have not had in our spaces, but I believe the conversation should be had.
Yes.
Uncle Robert, good evening, sir. Happy Sabbath.
Good evening, El Pastor. And I appreciate you bringing me into your space. This is a sacred space. It's the Sabbath. And so while we are more controversial on other days, today we want to have the conversation in that sacred space. And so we're able to have the conversation and see where this takes us tonight. It's going to be awesome.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the same, you know, when I came in student, I saw him in green, I almost thought it was political. But no, we are just people. We support anybody, and that's what masculinity is all about.
You're celebrating both.
Yeah, man. And so we will be just having a conversation. Yes. I should also make mention that he has a very interesting program by the name Wrecking Trade on Monday evenings on Flashpoint and Praise 87.9 FM. His show is aired where he is talking about how men can be empowered and how men should what men should look like and how men should behave in this contemporary modern era.
Absolutely.
So just before we go into the meat of the matter, Ella Rob, you can relax a little, you can breathe, you're in the portal. Of course, just like how we've spoken to other guests before and asked them their favorite thing to do on the Sabbath. What is your favorite thing that you'd like to do or you're looking forward to on the Sabbath?
Interestingly enough, I guess my life has been centered around service. So for the last however many years, on a Friday evening, one of the things I usually find myself in more often than not is at church, getting set up, getting prepared, or even now more recently at Flashpoint, getting the portal set up, getting those things happening, right? But if I was to say my most favorite thing is my mother lives in West Bay and she gets us together on a Friday night. So just to be able to go down there on a Friday night, sit down, sing songs with the kids and sing songs with the parents, and just to kind of have that worship experience with the family, it's incredible.
Wow. So you're not going to get away from this. Contemporary gospel songs or hymns?
Contemporary gospel songs or hymns. Interestingly enough, for me, you know what, I can't sing. So neither one. I don't have a preference for either one.
Yeah.
I do have a desire, though. I have a love for my daughter, she's 2. She loves to sing "Every Praise" by Hezekiah Walker, and so that's my favorite song now. And they wake up in the morning, "Every praise," and so that would be contemporary, right? So that's my slant right now. That's my slant.
All right. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you are an effective communicator as well as an avid media guy, and you could correct me of the correct term after the show. Which part of the service, the church service, you enjoy the most? Bible class or divine hour?
Bible class, or well, I guess you've identified that I like to talk, and so Bible class and Sabbath school presents us with an opportunity to not just have the word delivered, but to have us to take it apart and explore. And so in the exchanging of thoughts, I believe that's where we truly have the opportunity to grow. So mine would be Bible class.
Wonderful. All right, you've heard from our guests, you've seen another side of our guests. Now we are under the caption or the theme this evening on this blessed Sabbath: restoring healthy masculinity. Do you believe that masculinity needs to be restored?
I love that question because it presumes that it needs to be restored, right? But for me, masculinity has always been there. It's like when you bore down into a mountain and you find the diamond and you think you've discovered something. No, the diamond has always been there. You just unearth what has already been there. God designed masculinity all the way from the beginning of time. We have lost sight of it, right? But it's always been there. So now we're just opening our eyes up to what's always been there.
Wow. So with that being said, what does the term masculinity mean? What is masculinity?
Great question. When I went to NCU, and one of the things, you visit the Reed Hall, that's the hall where the young girls, and so you'd visit the hall, and one of the things that is written across the hall as you walk in is the greatest want of the world is the want of men, the want of men who would not be bought or sold, men who will call sin by its rightful name, right? It ends with men who would stand for the right though the heavens fall. And so for me, what masculinity means is two things. And I mean, I'd usually be a little bit more graphic on my own show, but one is you have the spine to stand up for what you believe in, and 2, you have the courage to back that up, right? Because sometimes we have unpopular thoughts. I'd say something else, but courage is what I'll use this evening on the Sabbath, right? So when you have the spine allows you to stand erect. That's what makes us different from animals. We're not walking around on our knees, right? We're able to stand up. And so when you stand up, you make yourself visible. When you make yourself visible, there's a challenge that comes with that, because when people see you, they're not always happy.
True.
When people see you, they're not always happy. They don't always welcome your presence, because now that you've stood up, your presence actually casts a shadow. A light is right in front of us, so there's going to be a shadow behind us. So if someone is standing behind me, they're going to lose sight of the light, or they may feel like I'm taking something away from them. So first up, as a man, you must be willing to stand up and understand that your presence is going to impact other people. It's not to be tyrannical with it, it's just to understand that's a natural part of the process.
Wow. But let's just unpack that a little, because I want to understand you, and you're doing well.
Yes.
You said masculinity means you stand up for what you believe in.
Yes.
Is there a difference between standing up for truth and standing up for what you believe in?
So here, and again, that's a really awesome question in that...
I try.
Yeah. So standing up for truth. So as we talk about this, one of the things I appreciate about myself is that I don't consider myself an expert. I consider myself a traveler on the journey. And I've found as I travel, I discover and I learn new things. And I find throughout human existence, as we go on, we learn new things. One of the things that we may have held as truth 500 years ago, 1200 years ago, however many years ago, we may find a different connection to them. Even how we connect to God, right? And so with that, when we talk about truth, we talk about truth as it relates to the Bible, because here we're Christians and we believe that God has designed the world for us, and so we take truth from his perspective. Now, how we unpack that now, how we unpack his truth and how we share that truth with others in this space is going to be guided by wisdom. Right? The wisdom that says, hey, when Paul meets the men at he's meeting with the scholars on Nod Hill. That's the place when he's talking to the scholars and he meets them and they're talking about this unknown God. And he'd walk in right away and say, hey, you guys are stupid. You guys are ridiculous. You are worshipping this
Mars
God.
Hill.
Mars Hill, there you go. Where you guys are worshipping this unknown God. I mean, that's just superstition. But instead, he uses wisdom and said, hey, I appreciate what you guys are doing. You're doing an awesome job worshipping this unknown God. Let me tell you about this God that you don't know, because that is the all-powerful God and that's his great wisdom. And so they stand up and they listen. So he has the confidence and the courage to stand up for what he believes in, and then he uses wisdom to translate that to the people around him.
Wow. That was so much. And what I've gathered from what you're saying is that whereas you're saying that masculinity evolves over time, so whereas you understand it to be B today, tomorrow the understanding might change depending on how you are seeing it at the time you saw it.
The understanding or the connection for me may change. So one of the things, the stories I tell often is that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I was not in the place that I was today. As a matter of fact, we talk about our leader here, fearless leader here, Mikey, who's been on he's been on the front lines of masculinity from day one, and he and I used to contend violently in church, saying, Mikey, what are you talking about? Because I believed at the time the narrative of the day, and the narrative of the day is men and women are equal, men and women are the same, and so you want to be able to operate in that space. And sometimes we even use the Bible to support these things, where we use a part of the Bible that says, hey, we should submit one to another, right? But then the Bible also says later on that the man is the head of the woman.
Right.
So how are we interpreting those two texts? And so sometimes we'll have debates about the thing, but here's what it comes down to, right? And here's my appreciation of today. When we're talking about submitting one to the other, we're talking about us as a church body. Right? We're talking about all of us together. But when we're talking about submitting man to woman, that's a different conversation. And so what it translates to now is that leadership looks different from everybody else. And if the man is the head of the household, the man is the leader of the household.
Right.
And so there's a design that God has put in that organization that says, for the most efficient operation, this is what this needs to look at. It doesn't mean that the woman can't lead, because if she's by herself, she's going to take care of things and she's going to do things, right? She's going to do what she needs to do. Just like if the man is by himself, he's going to do what he needs to do. Going back to Genesis, when God made man, of course he made man awesome and wonderful and perfect, but then he looked at him and said, it is not good for man to be alone. So the man needed the woman, just like the woman needs the man. And then God gave us how that organization, how we form those two things together, those two people together, for the most efficient operation at the time of the garden, here now of our homes.
Wow. So with that being said, is there a difference between masculinity in itself as opposed to biblical masculinity?
Great question, right? So is there a difference? For me, there is not. For me, there is not, because here's the thing. When God designed it, and if I may just to deviate a little bit.
Feel free, man. You're in the portal.
Many of the things that we talk about, right? We talk about health, we talk about wealth, we talk about relationships. As human beings are going through and getting smarter and getting the internet and discovering these things, guess what they're discovering? That God was right all along. They're discovering that you want to be healthy, follow God's principles that he set from day one. I remember when I was growing up, we used to eat kalaloo, and we used to eat pak choy, and we used to eat these things, vegetables, right? But we thought we were doing it because we were poor and we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford better. So when we get some money now, we want chicken and we want oxtail and we want steak and we want all of these things. But guess what we're finding? Those things were better for us from day one. But that was the diet that God gave us in the garden. True. To eat more vegetables, right? Same thing for wealth. When you want to understand wealth principles, God gave that to us from day one. We've been doing a whole bunch of things running around, but God gave us a principle from day one. Same thing. He gave us a relationship principle from day one. But we keep trying to do all these other designs, all these other things. He gave us a principle of masculinity. We keep trying to do all these other things when we just need to come back to the design. So your question is there a difference between masculinity in the church and masculinity in the world? And I said, it is not. What masculinity looks like, it's going to look like leadership. Masculinity always looks like leadership, and leadership is going to look the same way in the church, in the CEO Fortune 500 company, in the family, in wherever you go. What does that look like? Someone that you can trust. right? The first thing, because to be a leader, you must be able to inspire people to follow you. So that's the first thing, right? Then it is going to be someone who's respected. You can't be a leader if you can't garner respect. For people to follow you, they must respect you, right? And so that also means then you have to manage that respect, because all of these things are things. So that means you can't be a leader if you allow people to just disrespect you however they feel like. So you have to manage that respect, because that's a currency that you can't, that you have to really manage. Just like with your wealth, you can't just have money in your pocket and squander it wherever you go. Your respect is a currency that you have to use, so you can't just squander it however or wherever you feel like. Right? So you have leadership, you have respect, and the next thing is you must have a plan. People can't follow you if you don't have a plan. People can't follow you if you don't have a plan. If you're just walking around and figure, no, we're going into chaos. That is not God's design. God says get a plan, use your respect, build your influence, and get people to follow you. So whether that is in the family, you have a plan for the family. Your organization, you have a plan for the organization. Your company, you have a plan for the company. And so through those things now, whatever the pieces that you use to fill in the blanks, wherever you go, leadership, masculinity is going to look the same.
Wow. I cannot disagree with you. And, just to, unpack it a little, what Elder Rob is saying, based on what I'm understanding, is that masculinity means leadership.
Yes.
And, I've read a book, a few years ago, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. He says that leadership means influence.
Yes, there you go.
And I think you are saying the same thing differently, that the man must be able to lead. The man must be able to allow people to it's not a boss, whereas boss make you do it, leaders make you want to do it.
That's it, man. Yes.
So Elder Rob, let's get a little bit more tangible, a little bit more personal with the interview, in the sense that you said in your interview, in your introduction, that you weren't always here.
Yes.
What led you here? Why healthy masculinity?
Perfect. One of the things that has guided me on this journey, and more recently, is as I was looking at the landscape and I was looking at what was going on, and I was battling with Mikey and thinking, okay, fine, something is going on, and he has a point. Something is going. I don't quite know what it is, but it is not quite in focus yet. What brought it into focus for me was having children. When I looked at my son first up, and then I looked at my daughter, right? And then I wondered at myself, and I said to myself, okay, fine, God has blessed me with these two young lives. Why has he done that?
Wow.
He's done that because he wants me to impart something from him to them, so that they may take up their leg of the journey. What is that? All right. First up must be, what is the template of a human being, and then the template of a man, so that my son can know what a man is to be, and my daughter can know what a man looks like, so they can recognize it when they see it. And so that forced me to ask myself some tough questions. Am I that guy?
Wow.
And it's not, am I that guy to puff up my chest or whatnot? I have to look and go, if God has given me this mission, what does the guy that he wants me to reflect to them look like?
Wow.
And so with that, now I had to jump into the word and kind of try to understand some of the texts that we've taken for granted, and see how it applies to my life, and how what that now must look like in the presence of this new mission that God has given me.
Wow.
And so that has been what has taken me on this path. I said, hey, whatever it is, brother, you need to get it together so that you can actually deliver the lesson that God has hired you to deliver.
Wow, powerful. Revelations are important for our growth and for our evolvement. And Uncle Rob, your life is not an exception, because you rightly said, and thank you for being honest. Masculinity also means honesty.
Yes.
And you were able to recognize that there was a deficiency in how you look at masculinity. Would that also affect how you saw yourself, and the perception and the expectation of you from society? Were there any pressure?
Absolutely.
How do you see yourself then when you didn't get revelation, as opposed to how you're seeing yourself now?
So interestingly, so I was going ahead and I was doing things and I was comfortable and I was okay, right? But sometimes you can go, and they say hindsight is 2020. When you are there on the journey,
in 2024.
there you go. Hindsight is 2024, right? So when you're there and you're looking at yourself, you think that you're okay. It's like when you're eating some crackers, and if all you know how to eat is some crackers and with butter on it, and it's fine, it's a wonderful meal because that's all you know. But then when you you move ahead now and you get something to add to the crackers, now maybe you can add some some salmon slivers on the crackers, and now it tastes a little bit different and it excites your palate. So now you're comparing it to what you were doing before.
Right.
When you're doing it before and you didn't know about the salmon slivers, the crackers and the butter was fine, but now it is different, right? So here it is. And sometimes, and again, if I may, this is my message to men. Sometimes where you are, you don't necessarily know that, hey, you're in the wrong place or you're in a bad place, because that's all you know. And so that's why, for me, the mission is critical for us to help shine a light first up to go, hey, there are other things out there besides what you've been raised to believe or what you've been taught. Because some of us grew up in homes where we didn't have that example, we didn't have a template, and so all we have is what we know. So here we're just shining a light to say there are other things here. And so back to me, when I was there, I didn't think anything was wrong with it, because as I said before, I was violently fighting Mikey and saying what he's saying is foolish, is because I believed what I believed at the time.
Oh.
So here now, when I'm on this side and I'm able to see the differences in not just my thinking but my approach to situations, then I can go, wow, I had my eyes closed and I didn't even know that I was blind.
Wow. Indeed. As I paused there, because I was just probably thinking about on my own journey as a man, how has those perception
Yes.
of me thinking what is right is good for me as opposed what is not good for me. And so that is why I paused just now, and I came to the conclusion just now, right, as I'm
Yes.
sitting here, that masculinity, or should it is what you're saying is that masculinity means also recognizing where you are and where you need to go?
That's right. It's recognizing that we don't know all things, we don't know everything, and so it's taking a moment to recognize, if I don't know everything, what can I learn on the journey? And then when you receive something, you can evaluate it openly without emotion to go, hey, where does this thing take me? Does this thing take
Hold
me
on.
to a better place?
Pause,
Sorry.
Elaram. You said something just now. We want to unpack it a little. Listen, if you're just joining us,
Yes.
please feel free to send your question. The man here is prepared. The man is ready. The man has been studying this for years, and he is a part of us, and he is giving us some insight that we need. You said without the absence of emotions.
Yes.
Spend some time there, because maybe somebody is listening and somebody said, but we're emotional beings. How do you
Separate those.
separate emotions as opposed to making the right choices?
Great question, and it allows me to kind of dig in a text that I misunderstood for many years, and that text was when Jesus says, be angry and sin not. Like, okay, so be angry and sin not, what does that mean? I mean, hey, I'm upset with you, don't punch you in the face, what? Right? For me, what I've been able to appreciate with it is your emotion. As you said, we're emotional beings. Your emotions will always be there, but they don't need to lead you. They don't need to make you do something. So you can never say, well, he did this and so that's why I had to, or she did that and that's what. No, you can have the emotions, you can have persons do whatever they do, but you still get the choice in how you respond to it. And here, when some information comes to you, you can look at it, you can be triggered by it and go, oh, this is upsetting. But then you go, is it true? Is it real? Is it helpful? And when you're able to make that separation, you can make decisions that are better for you, as opposed to just it's decisions that feel good.
Wow, there's so much. And I really planned this question for you, knowing your background in media and knowing your understanding of masculinity, where we are right now in 2024. Here's a question.
Yes.
How does media portrayal impact the contemporary understanding of masculinity?
Wow, right? So as I think about that, one of the first things I think about is I used to love watching animations when I was young, and I used to watch Homer Simpson, and I used to watch Family Guy, and I used to watch all of these father figures who were essentially bumbling idiots. Right? They would be in the house, they would be in the presence, but they're always getting things wrong. They're always failing, and the mother had to jump in and rescue and save the family. So throughout media and beyond just these shows, in many other shows, you'll see this narrative where the father has become irrelevant or inconsequential or diminished, and it is the mother who is the central focus, the person who saves the day, brings the things together, is the authority who makes everything all right.
Wow.
And that is not necessarily in keeping with God's design, because if the man is the head of the household, how can the man be an idiot? If the man is supposed to be the leader, how can you follow an idiot?
Wow.
If the man is supposed to be respected, how can you respect an idiot? And if the man is to be trusted, he can't get anything right. You can't trust him with a single thing.
True.
You can't even trust him to take care of the children.
Wow.
You can't even trust him to keep the house from burning down when you're not around. So all the things that should represent masculinity, these images of masculinity that are scattered across media and pop culture, are not in alignment with it.
Wow.
So imagine young boys growing up seeing this as the template. Imagine young girls growing up seeing this as the template. It leads us to all be confused. Not of our own fault, but because that has been what has been presented to us. And we go, so what are you talking about, Robert? Is this some kind of conspiracy theory? If we're Christians, we should all be conspiracy theorists. You know why? Because we know that there's a devil out there who's not for us. He's not for God's design. He's not for families. He's not for any of the things that we hold dear. And if he's doing his work, we can't just take for granted that everything that we see in the media
True.
is kosher and good.
True.
So now we need to start evaluating these things consciously.
Wow.
And not just in eating these things emotionally. Oh yeah, it feels good, it feels nice. Oh, let me enjoy it. No, things that are for laugh is not just for fun.
Wow. Wow, Elra. Happy Sabbath, Lady Merle Perry. She said, happy Sabbath, family from New York City. Of course, we welcome you here in the Grand K. Of course, and I heard you said something, Elder Rob,
Yes.
that the template that
Yes.
the media portrays sometimes, most times, is really flawed.
Yes.
You said also that men are seeing the template as opposed to our women.
Yes.
Do you think our women would be affected seeing the flawed or the flawed template of what masculinity should be?
Absolutely. And so many persons misunderstand my show and misunderstand my message, thinking that I'm against women. No. My message is, together we achieve. God looked at man and said it is not good for man to be alone, and gave man an awesome gift so that the garden could be good again. So how do we get good? By working together under a particular organization, the design that God has given us, right? That's it. Now, imagine a young lady who's growing up seeing this template, seeing this image of man as a failure, man as an idiot, man as useless, man as pointless, man as, without courage, man can't do anything. She actually grows up consuming that template, now believing that she has to do everything herself.
Wow.
The independent mindset. She believes now that she has to go out and get a job and work hard because she can't trust a man to take care of her. So how can God then tell her that she must submit, when everything that she sees tells her that she can't submit to that thing? One of the questions that have come up multiple times as we've had this conversation, whether on my show, we've taken it into the church, we've taken it into the community. One of the first things that come up when you talk about male authority is the image of oppression. I'm saying, where does this come from? The same place. If every time you look at a man, something tells you to be afraid, then you have to ask yourself, where does that come from? What is informing that? What is causing you now to, even when you decide to marry someone, stand up in front of God and choose a man that you said is awesome, even in that relationship, your distrust is seeping in. You can't trust him. You need to work and take care of yourself and all of these things. The devil has planted seeds in us, both men and women, that causes this to happen. To what end? So that we will divide. And as long as we are divided, he will continue to conquer us.
Well, and you rightly said, Elder Rob, and I think most of what you said, most of what I've understood, is that we are stronger together.
We are absolutely stronger together.
The blame game started right there in the Garden of
That's
Eden
it.
after Adam and Eve fell. Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent.
Yes.
So with all of that being said, how do I understand masculinity against is there anything such as masculine limitations as opposed to female limitation? Is there a difference?
So, two pillars that come out of that question, and I mean, it's kind of the two pillars of my show: accountability and responsibility. One of the first things that Adam had an opportunity to do right then and there is follow God's lead. What does that look like? So, as we look at the text, we see Eve goes off. She's having a conversation with the devil. She sees new light and she takes this fruit and she eats it. And now it's been revealed to her, and she now wants to share this new light with her husband. And she says, "Hey, brother, whatever you thought was wrong, here's the new thing." That's the situation that happened. God comes down. That's the situation. That's the sequence of events. God sees this. He knows this. He could have easily come down and say, "Eve, what have you done?" He did not do that.
He didn't ask Eve
He
anything.
didn't ask Eve anything. He asked Adam, "What's going on?" But guess what Adam did? Instead of taking accountability,
Blame the woman.
Adam said, "It is the woman that you gave me."
Wow.
So you know what he did, and again in my studies, what I'm seeing him, what in my eye through my eyes of inspiration, what I'm seeing him doing is saying, "Hey God, I know you put me in charge, right? You said I'm the head of the household, but guess what? Go talk to her because she's really in charge. She made me do it." Which then God, following the instructions of the man, goes, "Okay, I will go and talk to the who is the head."
Right.
And so he goes and talks to Eve, and then Eve goes, "Oh no, the devil made me do it." And now that God has to go talk to the devil, and so we hear we have a conversation. We talk about in church that the devil is the prince of this world. We did that. Adam passed the power to Eve, and Eve passed the power right to him.
Oh, wow. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we I'm thinking about a part two. We are not yet finishing. We are not yet finished. And the information, right, I haven't heard anything you've said just now that maybe I need to put an asterisk over that. Because you have been really focusing on masculinity, and that's what we want to leave the ladies out of the
Yes.
conversation a little. We've always been talking about them, so because this program right now
Yes.
is about empowering
Yes.
men. Here's a question, or here's the idea: do you think the rise of women is a result of men failing to stand?
Listen, and I must say this with my whole chest, and I'm going to give a resounding yes. And what does that look like? What does that mean, right? Throughout the Bible, we see many women standing up in the Bible, right? We see many women standing, even or as we talk about in the church, we talk about the prophet, we talk about Ellen White, and we see her situation where she stands up, and you know, persons are contending with her, and she can point to, "Hey, God tried to talk to these two men before me." And guess what? They didn't have the courage that we talked about earlier to stand up for their convictions. So, if no one stands up, someone must. The Bible tells that if we don't cry out, the rocks are going to cry out. So, in a situation where I see women stand up, I don't begrudge women. Because women will feel like they need to stand up because they don't see men standing up. No, there's a whole different Miriam spirit where you actually do see men stand up and you try to contend with that spirit, and so God has to check those women. That's a different conversation. What we're talking about for the majority of women, they see a situation where men are absent, and so they feel like they need to step up, and so they need to do all things. And so for those women, what I'm saying is, when we understand, then what we start to do is, rather than looking for challenges, we start to look for the same thing that God did. When God looked at the man and said, "It is not good for man to be alone," God was figuring, okay, what can I give him to help him to be better? So rather than looking at the man and seeing his deficiencies, what can I help him so that he can be better, stronger, and be more of the man that God designed? So rather than getting into contentions where, well, he's not being enough, I need to do, no. How can I empower him to be what God has designed him to be?
Wow. So I think you are saying the same message differently, in a succinct way, and in a profound way. What you're saying is that if we're able to empower each other, we are able to get the job done.
There we go.
Listen, on the other side of this break, we have more questions for Elder Robert. We are talking about healthy masculinity. He does not believe that masculinity is new, and of course it is biblical. Ladies, this is the time you ask your question. Feel free to ask your question. We will put something on the deck, and on the other side of this break, we'll continue the conversation with Elder Robert Lynch.
'Tis love that makes us happy. 'Tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind. It makes us kind to others every day. God is love. We're His little children. God is love. We would be like Him. 'Tis love that makes us happy. 'Tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind. It makes us kind to others every day. This world is full of sorrow, of sickness, death, and sin. With loving hearts we'll do our part and try some soul to win. God is love. We're His little children. God is love. We would be like Him. 'Tis love that makes us happy. 'Tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind. It makes us kind to others every day. And when this life is over and we are called above, our song shall be eternally of Jesus and His love. God is love. We're His little children. God is love. We would be like Him. 'Tis love that makes us happy. 'Tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind. It makes us kind to others every day. It helps us mind. It makes us kind to others every day. It helps us mind. It makes us kind to others every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Open Portal, and we are having a wonderful discussion. We are talking about masculinity, not just masculinity, but healthy masculinity, what it looks like. How do we identify it in this modern era? How do I become a better man? And we are not talking about masculinity from a negative perspective, because this is the Open Portal, where we use the Bible to as our substratum, as our foundation. But on Ella Rob's show, you can get more statistic if you want to find a little bit more if you want to get more depth in the whole idea of masculinity, where he is a little bit more raunchy or a little bit more saucy on that side. But it is Sabbath, and we are looking at masculinity from a healthy perspective. Now, you were talking about we've hinted at gender roles and identification of masculinity versus feminism. Because if you're not a woman, you are a man, and if you're not a man, you are a woman. What are those things?
Awesome. And so, as we just kind of touched on, the idea that, hey, when God looked at the garden, there are some things that He wanted us to do. And for me, this gets revealed and to touch outside of the Bible, but inside of God's design a little bit, in terms of when we go to puberty as human beings. When a woman goes through puberty, her hips get wider so that she can bear children, and she grows breasts so that she can nurse those children, nurturing and care and being able to bring life, right? When I went through puberty, my muscles got a little bit bigger, right? I got more strong, bigger muscles.
Voice,
there you go. Deeper voice.
Growing.
There you go. Hunter, right? Protection, provision. By the sweat, the Bible says, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. And so, when it comes to design, if God gave us these gifts, He wanted us to use the gifts so that we can further the mission that He gave us. Now, in this day and age, we say, hey, everyone can do everything, but is that efficient? Is that the most efficient use of resources? For instance, you have a Formula One car, the car that can go 500 miles an hour. The grocery store is just 3 miles up the street. You jump in that car, it's a waste of resources. It's burning gas. That's not the gas. That's not the car that you'd use for that, right? So here, certainly, men can take care of children in the home, and men can, make sure they can go to the home. And we live in a world where women can go to work. But is that the most efficient use of resources? One of the ones that I had a conversation with someone earlier today was, say that is the design, but guess what? Biology is going to help us to wake up and see. Even if that is the design, it is the woman who is going to get pregnant. In that design, it is the woman who is going to deliver that baby. In that design, it's the woman who's going to need time off from work to nurse that baby.
Wow.
So even though you'd love for the man to stay home and do all those things, he can't. So the most efficient use of resources says for the continuity of resources, it would be better for the man to be out working so that he can continue working for the full time of the pregnancy and be able to make sure that he has the resources to take care of the family when the woman needs to rest and take care of herself and take care of the baby.
Wow, and I think you're making a very salient point. Sufficing it to say, how do you go against the man's natural instinct of a hunter, locking him away? Does that go against his biology?
There you go. It does. And part of it has been how we've managed ourselves, how we've been trained, how we've been led to appreciate. Because many of us as men, one of the things that I also took up recently is, I found that, hey, if I have young children, then that means I need to be able to keep up with them. So I have to get myself back in shape. I have to work on losing some weight. I have to work on my physicality. I have to work on my fitness. And as you draw closer to that design, I started to wonder to myself, what is the actual design that God designed this physical body to look like? I want to see that. Right? And so, but society has said, hey, eat cakes, play video games, do whatever you want to do. And if you put on some pounds and whatever it is, that's fine, because it doesn't matter. But it does. It affects your ability to execute the mission that God has designed for us. And so if we miss out on that and we don't actually get to become the specimen that God designed us to be, then it is easy for us to go, well, none of the other things matter.
Wow. Wow.
So and just to take it just a step further and to put a finer point on it, even as the children are growing, we look at society now and we look at all the things, and this is one of the things that was a real trigger for me. We look at the things that society wants to teach our children. So we send them out into the public school system, we send them out into the world, and who's responsible for the transmission of the values of the family?
Yeah.
Now again, by design. The design was the man is out there working and taking care of the things, and the wife, the mother, she's there nurturing and teaching and training the child, so the family's values would be continued from generation to generation. Now if they're both out working, they're both absent, and we lose family values, and we can see the impact of that on society now, where family values are lost and the world is where it is.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ella Rob. Why you're spitting on so much stuff. I have to be keeping up with you. How do we look at partnership? Because you rightly said that we're together.
Yes.
When the woman is pregnant, and I'm going on an emotional whim.
Yes.
Because I know our ladies are on, and I'm facilitating.
No problem.
Not just our ladies, but also not just our men, but also our ladies.
Yes.
Maybe she's thinking, because businesses today and great organization have come up with the idea of paternal leave.
Yes.
For men when their wives or women get pregnant. How do you factor that into the conversation? Are you saying that we should just out there be working? Is there a time when I come home and attend, like, do the domesticated stuff at home?
So, interesting question, and it's one that I've come more to appreciate, both through this conversation and both through owning businesses on my own and working with employees. You know, when I was an employee, I thought, hey, maternity leave, great. You get to take care of the family, and paternity leave, that's even better. We get to both stay home and still get paid. As an employer, that conversation looks a little bit different, in that I now have to pay 2 employees to not be present, and then also pay 2 additional employees to be present to do their work. So now I'm paying double to get the same work done. Right? It sounds wonderful, but here's the challenge. On the one side, if you just look at the woman, then that means her dependence, her trust, her faith is not on the man. It is on the job.
Talk to us. Unpack
So
that.
here in this situation where God designed the man to protect and provide, if she has a different provider, then why does she need the man? And you'll hear this all across social media. What do I need a man for? So she can get pregnant, the boss is going to pay for her time off, and then she's going to maybe connect to the government to get government subsidies or funding to take care of her and the child. what do I need a man for? So these social programs that may look like wonderful programs tend to now put enmity between the man and the woman.
Wow.
Puts a challenge, so now she's not dependent on him. Their trust fails because, hey, guess what? I don't need him. He's gone. I can trust something else, someone else.
Is that systemic
Systemic
abuse?
problem, a systematic abuse of the marriage, the relationship between man and woman that is not designed for the church. It is designed for the world, because the world has a plan, the devil has a plan. Put a challenge between husband and wife and destroy the whole society.
Wow. So I've never looked at it from that perspective. So you're saying, whereas the leaves, respectively, for men and women, naturally for women, because
Yes.
it was always women getting it,
Yes.
but now they are introducing. So you're saying, whereas it has its benefit, it also has its curse?
It has its curse. It has a wicked curse, because we're receiving the funds, but it makes you now beholden to the company instead of the man that you're building a life with, instead of the woman that you're building a life with. And so, and again, it's again not just for women, because it also makes men a little bit less inclined to do more, because if she's still going to get paid, I don't need to work as hard. So to your question was, does the man now need to go home and take care of the things? Well, that mindset says, hey, I can relax, I can take time off, I can
Can
put
get
my feet up,
comfortable.
I can get comfortable, and comfort leads to complacence. And so with that complacency, now we're stuck in this place, because now we're struggling, we're looking at the job. Now when that challenge happens with the job, and the job flow stops providing, guess what happens? We now started to contend, because we never learned how to push the muscles past the comfort that we had. We never learned how to go out there and actually be hungry. I mean, if you go back in time and you think
Stay
about
hungry.
and stay hungry, you think about when men had to go out and hunt for animals that were
I was
running
coming on
around.
to that.
Right? That means there was no state, there was no time off. You had to bring it home, or there was nothing. You had to bring it home, or there was nothing. But here we are, because of those men who were before us. They did it. So why is it that we can't do it?
And they happily did it.
And they happily did it. And their partners trusted them to do it, because that is what the family needed to do to survive. If you didn't bring it home, the mother is dead, the baby is dead, everybody is dead.
I was trying not to go down this lane, but I have to go with my conscience. Do you think traumatized women are equal to absent masculinity?
I love how you phrased it, because they're equal. You're right in that women are traumatized by not seeing the leadership. They were designed to receive it. They were designed to crave it. They were designed to want it, to want to be around it. Everyone wants to be protected. She wants to be provided for. She wants it. And trauma says, if I can't trust it, then I can't receive it. The same thing happens for the absent man. He goes, I can't be it.
That's why I'm not there.
And that's why I'm not there. And both of them are traumatized, and both of them suffer, and then both of them raise children who will suffer.
Wow. And sometimes the kids are so innocent, and they're the one who suffers the most.
There you go.
We keep making mention of the thought or the ideology of women saying they don't need men. Do they really need men?
We absolutely need each other. God said, I mean, and we start from the first part, and I say we because God said it's not good for the man to be alone, and He gave him the gift. So,
Wow.
every man, if not most men,
He's preaching tonight in a miking.
most men will say right away, I need a woman. No, if God gave the man the gift, that means in the gift itself, there is also something that is necessary. There's no something that is necessary for completeness. Correct? Gift without someone to give it to is just a thing. But with the man, in the presence of the man, the woman and the man become more than just two people.
Wow.
When the two become one, they become so much greater that the devil is afraid.
Wow. Well, that was a short there, right there for Ellie. No, let's get into the real deal. We've give you the academic and the polished version of it.
Yes.
You would have been an advocate for this subject that we're discussing.
Yes.
You'd have also had men who you have been counseling on, and now you have newly formed the Cave,
Yes.
where men in the Cayman Islands can come and have
Yes.
a chat and and just men, just empowering men.
Yes.
In talking to men, in empowering men, in counseling men, because you're also a counselor. What are some of the challenges you realize that is common amongst men?
Great point, common among men, and you'll find that there's so many things that when we get together we realize, what, you're going through the same thing, and that in and of itself becomes empowering. But then there's a whole other thing, right? And we go back to the idea of leadership. You will see a rabble, you'll see a group of people standing around, and they're milling around and they're not accomplishing anything. But then a leader arises, or someone steps up and brings that team together, group together, and they now become a powerful force. We've seen these through the Malcolm X's, we've seen these through the Martin Luther Kings, we've seen these because it's the same people, it's the same people, but because there's a voice that stands up, the people now stand up together. And so the power is in our ability to stand together. I'm just a voice, but when we are able to stand together, that becomes empowerment. We all get a little bit stronger. So between the cave and when we get a chance to get together as men, we meet twice a month. On one meeting we focus on connection, because we believe that, hey, because men have been isolated, men have been invited to think that, hey, you need to do everything on your own. Don't share with anybody, don't connect with anybody, because as a man you have to stand on your own. Not true.
Is that natural?
Not at all, because we built communities, we built societies because we recognize the value of coming together. The society now is telling us about individualism, and we need to start. No man is an island, no man stands alone.
Right.
So through coming together, we can remember what God designed us to be, because now we realize, I am not going through this alone. I mentioned at the top that I'm a traveler. By walking with other travelers, you get to go further, you get to feel a little bit stronger, and you get to do a little bit more.
The reward is in the journey.
The reward is in the journey together, right? So there's that. And then now on the other side of the program, we actually provide skills. So those, we kind of touch on some of the emotion and the communication skills, where you can have these communications one-on-one with your partner, one-on-one with your friends, and be able to have the communication skills. On the cave side now, we focus on the tangible skills. The cavemen, right? How do you learn how to hunt, make money, increase your wealth? How do you learn how to network, connect, build businesses, these kinds of things? And even spiritual, how do you learn how to lead your family in worship? So these are some of the things that we cover in the cave, so we can help men to be more fuller, more complete, more rounded, and even exercise. People don't understand how powerful, great word, thank you very much. How powerful,
we're empowering each other.
There you go. How powerful that word is. We've been taught to believe, hey, exercise means you're trying to work on your summer body so you can look good on the beach. It's not just that. Sure, when you exercise and your muscles start to pop, you look good on the beach, but think about your kids. When you are healthier and stronger, you can run around with them more. Children learn through play. If you're overweight and you're stuck, you're sitting on the chair and you're just yelling orders on them, and you're telling them to do this, and you're stealing their childhood. When you're able to be on the floor and roll around with them, when I get to throw my daughter in the air and see the big old smile on her face when I spin my son around, and see, those things are rewarding and powerful to them. But guess what? It's rewarding and powerful to me. It touches me right here and makes me live a little bit longer.
Wow. And Elder Rob, there's so much, but we have to invite you back to the portal, because this is an ongoing conversation.
Yes.
First, the society needs to accept it, and then accepting it by normalizing.
There we go.
Right? So, but from my program, the open portal is for everybody. So
Yes.
we've looked at masculinity, we've looked at the man, we've looked at the woman. Now let's see if we can save a little piece for the youth.
Okay.
Should I accept a proposal from a woman? Is that a masculine thing?
More and more you see this happening on the internet as women are, taking matters into their own hands, and they're proposing, and they're, providing the ring. And here's the thing. My message is not prescriptive, it is descriptive. And by that I mean,
Mercy.
if you feel comfortable taking a ring from a woman and being equal partners, and you can do the whole thing, and that works for you, by all means do what you want to do, right? My message is, God has given us a design, and in that design he's built in some efficiencies, he's built in some successes, he's built in some tools that helps you to be better, more successful, greater, and accomplish more. Now, if you want that, then we can have a conversation. I can tell you about the prescription that I share from God. But if you want to do something else, you're your own man, you're your own individual. You can do whatever that looks like.
Wow, 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 wow. It wasn't a trick question. It is a real question because it's a real event. These things are happening. And I like how you put it out there.
And if I may add a little bit more to it, because
Please.
there might be some young men who are listening and they're thinking, okay, I can make that decision. But here's the thought. There may be some challenges that come along with making that decision. If God has given us something, he gave it to us so that, what did he say? It is not good for the man to be alone. That means he gave us some things to help us to be better off, to be more successful. If we're choosing a design that is not in accordance with him, that must also mean that we're taking on some additional challenges.
Okay.
So let me see if I can unpack some of the challenges for you. So if built into that woman is the desire to be led, to be protected, and to be provided for, if you're putting yourself in a position that is not in alignment with that, then you may then be challenged by her realizing later on that that's not what she wanted. She actually wants the thing that God designed her to want.
Wow.
And so right away, you're already built in destruction into your new construction.
By going against the natural design.
By going
All
against
right.
the natural
So
design.
with that being said, here's it. Boy, there's so much, Mikey, there's so much happening right now. Here's it. You still haven't answered if it
Yes.
is right or wrong. But what I got from what you're
Yes.
saying is that every man has to make it
Every man has
his decision.
yes.
I didn't say his or her decision. I said his decision. If once you're a man,
Yes.
it's his. It's not these.
And if you
and
notice, I
those.
spoke to him, and I said, because we're on the open portal, we're working with God's design, and one of the greatest things that God gave us salvation. But guess what? He doesn't force any of us to take
Wow.
it. He says, "This is it. I stand at the door and knock." Right? And so, with this message, that's what we're doing. We're sharing the message. If you find that this works for you, then by all means go ahead. God is not going to force you into salvation. He's not going to force you to heaven. Go wherever you want to go, but he's inviting you into an awesomeness, into the wonder that he has created.
Wow.
And that's the same template that we're using here.
Well, I like that, and essentially what Elder Rob is saying is that if you choose to do that, there are some side effects that you would have to do it. But I don't know. I don't think I could accept a proposal from a woman naturally, because I think I should be the one to propose. I should be the one that make her know that, hey, I value you and I want to spend the rest of my days with you. That's how I see it. But if a next man sees it different, I am not condemning him, but in my house.
So like we said at the top of the show, masculinity comes with two of the things that connects directly to this: leadership. If you're if you're following, then you're not leading. And you need to have a plan. If you're on her plan, then you don't have a plan.
Wow. So then they always say that a good leader is a good follower. How do you match that against what you just said?
There are some interesting quotes out there that sound awesome and they sound incredible, right? But they may be a little bit misleading. One of those I find tend to be happy wife, happy life. Because it presumes that if the man slaves away and does everything he needs to do to make her happy, then we'll have a happy life, when that may not necessarily follow. Because again, if you are being led around, then you're not leading. That's one. The other thing that comes along with that is that a good leader is a good follower. Right? It presumes again that if he follows the people around, then he's a good leader. No, a good follower is a good follower. Right? So here's what that's going to look like. A good leader, though, knows how to read his people, because it is not just about taking them to wherever you want them to go. It's about understanding who they are, understanding how you will incorporate them into the journey, and understanding how you use the skills that God has blessed them with to accomplish the mission. For instance, I can't tell a woman how to have a baby. I have no concept of that. I have to trust that she is doing her, she has been designed, and so in that case I have to give her what she needs in order to accomplish that part of the mission.
Support.
So support, there you go. So I will support the people who are following me in order to help us to get on the journey. But a good leader must be a good leader for the people he's leading.
Wow. So what you're saying then, let's unpack it here. What you're saying is that a good leader knows how to go to the people's left to
Yes.
get his right or her right. Well, his right, because in this context we're focusing on the men.
Okay.
We're focusing on the men. So
So if I may to unpack that, so he understands the mission that God has blessed him with. He understands the mission that God has put him on, and the mission is going to be critical. And so he'll look at the persons around and go, how do I maximize your talents so that we can accomplish the mission? But if we sacrifice the mission because we're going on everyone else's journey, then we're gonna get lost, and that's chaos.
we must know where we're going.
Yes, man.
We
Yes.
must have a set plan.
Yes.
But
If you want to follow a different leader, by all means, you can follow that leader. But this is where this ship is going.
as for me and my house, we
will-
will
there
serve the
you
Lord.
go.
You know. So what I'm saying, what I wanted to get to,
Yes.
because I also want to is either we're saying a good leader is not a good follower, or we're saying is either we're accepting the code or we're not accepting the code. Here's the thought that came to mind.
Yes.
Are you saying that the good leader a good leader, or the ability to lead, express or manifest itself in how people are able to follow you?
Yes. Yes. It manifests itself in how people are able to follow you, because when a leader leads, and again, kind of pushing back against the
Leadership is
pop culture
influence.
narrative, right? Because of the narrative, when we think about leadership, we think about chaos, and we think about authoritarianism, and we think about all that foolishness. A good leader must support the people on the team with him, because if they don't feel supported, they may get lost. He also must know how to push them past their limits, because a good leader invites you to not just see your hand, but see what your hand can accomplish, and sometimes that may be outside of your scope. Now, pushing them past their limits may have some thoughts someone may have some thoughts, but here's what it looks like. How do you motivate and empower someone to accomplish something that they didn't think that they were able to accomplish? And if I may give a quick example to kind
Go
of
ahead.
unpack that. With my children, right, they'll be trying to do something and go, Daddy, I can't do it, and I can't do it. No, I have two options in that scenario. I can go, okay, I'm going to do it for you, or I can cheer them along and inspire them and go, yes, I'm with you, yes, you can, right? Now, in that moment, he doesn't believe that he can do it. But when he gets past it and he says, oh, and he celebrates, he's ecstatic because he accomplished something that he didn't think that he could do. Now, what did I do when I just went, okay, I can't do it? I just stunted his group. I just robbed him of the joy that you can see on his face. The same thing is happening in leadership. Leaders have to find out, because I can't just go, oh, little boy, do it. I can't just push him and beat him up. No, I have to do it in a way that makes him feel inspired to accomplish it. And so, to go back to the quote, a good leader must know how to understand the people. So it may start off with him having learned how to follow, but that's not necessarily always the case. The key is learning how to understand the people, because a leader doesn't lead for himself. It is for the mission, and the mission is for all of us.
Wow, Mikey, this guy's brilliant. You know, what I've gotten from him is that a good leader models. A good leader create the path for his followers to trod. Wow. We have a few more questions. We do have a few more questions, and Ella Rob, I don't want to go too far. I think you are doing well, and I think all the questions have been answered so far. And we have two more questions according to the script. But I don't want to be selfish, and I can leave. I can always talk to you about these things, and we can always put it in a short some other time.
Okay.
Maybe there's a guy out there this evening, based on societal expectation, societal prescription or description of what a man is or a man should be. He's now feeling sad. He's now feeling, and by right he should feel sad, because one of the tenets that you brought out of this discourse is that a man should be able to provide. A man should be able to find ways or avenues to become financial literate. Here's this guy now feeling sad, doesn't have enough to take care of his baby, doesn't have enough to take care of his wife. He feels bad. He's now fighting with his deficiencies, fighting with his insecurities, his trauma. How is there hope for this?
Great,
person?
great. And this open portal is the place of hope. And so I love that question, because here it is, we get to shine a ray of hope right there, right? Wherever you are right now, whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're going through, this is not the end. This can be the beginning of your story.
Oh.
And that means first being able to recognize that your emotions, maybe you are feeling depressed, you are feeling down because you're not exactly where you need to be. As we said at the beginning, guess what? Your emotions don't have to lead you. They will lie to you and tell you that you have to stay there, but you don't. A principle that I operate on is I don't have to win every single day. I just have to work on just being 1% better. Right? Just by, can I tweak one thing? Is there one thing that I can do differently, better today than I did tomorrow? If I work on that consistency, I realize just through math that I can double whatever I'm doing in just 72 instances, right? Someone can check the math on that, right? So here's the thing. So if you are not where you are financially, pause, breathe, and go, okay, fine. It's all right. That's all right. Ask yourself now, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And what is it that you can do today that will help you on that path to get? You don't need to get there tomorrow. As men, one of the things that this has also helped me to work through is long-term thinking. I don't need to win today. I don't need to win tomorrow. I need to make long-term plans. My children are 2 now. What do I need to be doing for them when they're 20? Right? So, if you're a carpenter, you're a farmer, whatever it is, how can you improve your skill? What can you do to improve your skill? So maybe you're a carpenter. Is there a new tool that you can learn that can help you to do something more that you can sell on the side? Maybe you can build birdhouses, and now selling birdhouses can be a part of your thing, right? Maybe you're a plumber. Okay, is there a new thing out there that you can now add to your, you go on YouTube and learn how to tweak pipes, bend pipes, whatever it is, that now gives you an added skill that you can add an extra $100 or even an extra $25 to your pocket every week. One step at a time. Just do one small thing that helps you to increase what you're already doing. And I find that if you keep doing that, you will get to a place where you said, oh, is that where I'm coming from? Wow. Don't focus on the end. Just focus on doing one thing a little bit better each day.
So fix you every day.
Well,
Ella Rob, let me tell you something, man. We definitely have to have part 2. And I just also want to add my own sentiments to that guy, that God is not out of the picture. God is always there. You can trust him. And, I think you can also depend on him to inspire you and to give you wisdom as to how to operate. I think this question would have been answered in our earlier discourse, so I will leave that one. But right now, Ella Rob, if in what I really want to get at, women have biological clocks.
Yes.
Men have financial clocks.
Yes.
Am I a man if I have no money? Am I if what makes a man a man? Is it his status? Is it his job? Because I hear you said farmer, a plumber. You didn't say lawyer, pastor, police.
No.
So what are you hinting at there?
So what I'm hinting at is you can be a man irrespective of your financial status. Adam was a man in the garden before they had money. He was invited to be a man by God before he even had resources. And so sometimes we do get caught up in the idea of who has the greatest resources, who has the greatest status. But guess what? What I found is that sometimes you can have the greatest resources in the world, but you lack the capacity to stand up for what you believe in, and you lack the ability to, or the courage to really say it with your whole chest. And so in that case, you may not necessarily be inspiring other person, you may not necessarily be inspiring leaders, you may not be doing all of those things. And so while you are still a man, you may not necessarily be a masculine man. And you may have zero money in your pocket, but you are able to you have a commanding presence, and you're able to inspire leadership, you're able to inspire trust, you're able to do these things. Guess what I found that this does? You may have nothing today, but with those tools, you invite others to see you, follow you, and learn from you, and you'll find that resources will come. And And when you lack those tools, you may be born with resources and they disappear.
Elarab, I'm struggling. With what you have, the template that you have given us in terms of what is a man and what a man should be and what a man should not be. Is there a feminine man? Is there? Because you just say a masculine man. So I'm always, and I know is a question that Mikey has always had, because I think
Yes.
if you're a man and you decide to put on false breast or false
Yes.
bottom, that does not change who you are. You are still a man.
You are still a man.
Is there a ideology out there that say, hey, this man can be a feminine
Yes.
man?
Great question. And it allows me to kind of unpack what I said just now a little bit more in that, guess what? When it comes to being masculine, what I'm really talking about is really standing in the design that God has made for you. And to whatever degree we may get closer to it or further away from it, depending on what our mindset is. The invitation is to every day just work a little bit harder on getting closer to the design. And that design is being able to build trust, to be able to use influence, to be able to connect, to be able to have courage, and to be able to inspire other persons to lead. And your influence doesn't have to be big. You don't have to be leading the Cayman Islands. You could just be, it's just 3 of you hanging out, and you are saying, hey guys, let us now move forward. It's just the 2 of you in the family. Family, let's do this, because that is what masculinity looks like. How do we get better together?
Wow, indeed, and I don't even want to put so much of the emphasis on what Rob is saying. The Bible says that if I can't take care of my family, I'm worse than an infidel. This is the Bible.
Yes.
This is God
Yes.
speaking. So I think when you are referring to the masculine man,
Yes.
you're not even looking so more of the sex. You're more looking so more so of the responsibility.
That's it. Exactly.
Okay.
Well said. It's the responsibility that has been placed on men from day one to say, this is what you must do. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. He's talking to both of you. Because he didn't say, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, Eve. He said it to Adam. And then to Eve he gave her own directive. And so together they build the family unit together. They build the organization known as family. And they can work, go forward, and continue on the mission.
Well, sir, with your permission, can I ask the last question? And this question is, I think it covers what we've been dealing with from
Yes.
Adam times,
Yes.
as opposed to Robert times,
Yes.
Martino times. Here's a question, but this is why we're having the
Yes.
conversation, and we should not hide from it, and we should not go in silo because of what is happening. Here's a question: are there noticeable shifts in societal acceptance of diverse expressions of masculinity in the present day?
Certainly. But before I unpack that, let me say this. Many of the things that the devil presents, he presents them to us as human beings as things that will help us, and they look helpful, they look wonderful, they look beneficial. When he said to Eve, hey, you shall not surely die, that seemed like a blessing to her. Hey, you mean I won't die? I didn't want to die, and now knowing that I can do this and not die, that is wonderful. But in doing that, she took on death. In doing that, we took on death. So here's the thing. So in the expression now of
He's also taking the man's place.
and also taking the man's place, bringing death onto us, because we're moving away from the design in all things, in the design, in the message, and even in the application. And so, using that same template, when we're taking on diversity, we're saying, hey, let us make everything inclusive. Let us make everything equal. Let us make everything beneficial. But let's do a quick test on that in just simply for us as human beings. And let me just use it for my children. If I say to my daughter who is 2 and to my son who's 4 that, hey, you are the same, you are equal, then that means I may be inclined to. He wants to lift up something that is 10 pounds. He's developed to the place where he can do that. She's not there yet. But I must know, I'm going to go, okay, fine. You must get there. Or no, that's not fair. I must now tell him he can't lift up that heavy thing anymore because it makes her sad. I have now cut off his growth so that he can fit in with everybody else. What does that tell other people coming up? I don't need to work harder. Whatever I feel, whatever I think, it's okay because that's how we were designed. No, we were designed to work at to pursue, to grow, to develop. I don't just get muscles because I wake up one morning. No.
Our osmosis.
Or osmosis. It doesn't happen that way. In everything in our lives, we see effort placed in it yields results. How is it then that we are taking these particular things and go, well, that's just how they are? In our conversations, in our situations, in our responses to things, well, that's just how I am. No. God has designed us to bring everything around us into subjection. Which means even your emotional responses, even your sexuality, God has invited you to bring that into subjection. Because the same thing goes for both heterosexual and homosexuality. Here's the thing. If a heterosexual man wakes up every morning and goes, I just need to sleep with everything, then he's also in error. He must bring that into subjection. So if your desire for something of the same is bring you down a particular road, and that is not in accordance with God, then you must bring that into subjection.
Wow, and that's emotions.
And that is emotions.
Wow. Listen, Elder Rob, might I add, Dr. Rob, you've done well, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for accepting the invitation to be a part of this week's edition of the Open Portal, where we are really talking about healthy masculinity, restoring that was always there.
Yes.
And we just want to let you know, to our men, we shouldn't feel sad if we're talking about our men, and if we don't mention our women. We always love our women. Our women complement who we are. But this evening, the lesson and the PowerPoint plan that I presented is for our men. Because when men become stronger, our women become stronger, our communities are stronger, our church becomes stronger, and ultimately our world is stronger. The world is weak because we have weak men. There's no other way.
And if I may just add this small thought to what you just said in terms of the women, because women listen to your program. When God said it is not good for the man to be alone, he wanted the woman to help. And so if you as a woman want to actually help your man, hear our words, listen to what is going on, and then ask yourself the question, how can I use what I've learned to help my man to become a stronger man of God?
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't have articulate or express concepts like these in the way how my brother has, because he is an expert in his field. I'm on the journey myself, and I'm learning to become a healthy man. And a healthy man, what it is, an honest man, a man of God, a man who understands that I have limitations, but I'm not settling, a man who knows that I have erred, but I'm apologizing. And apologizing here doesn't mean just word of mouth, but action. Whatever I perceive it to be, I can become. Yes, 2 years ago I have done some stuff. 5 years ago I have done some stuff. But today I'm accepting the challenge to be a real man of God, not just in church, but in my home, everywhere I go, because masculinity means leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also tell the people where they can find you.
Find me every Mondays at 8 o'clock on the Wrecking Trade, where we have this conversation in greater depth. We have the conversation with women, we have the conversation with men, we have the conversation because the conversation must be had. We must talk about these things, we must recognize these things so that we can become, and then so that we can shine a light and show the next generation that masculinity is real, being a man is real. God designed it, and we can do it.
We didn't have any questions. We usually have questions. I'm going to take it that's an indication of people comprehending everything that you have said. Elder Rob, again, thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Remember to share the link. Ladies, share it to your husband. Share it to your uncles. We want everybody. This is the gospel.
Yes.
This is the gospel. The gospel is not just preaching about the three angels message, because I cannot be an effective messenger if I don't understand who I am first. And so the three angels message and the gospel is about empowering people. That's why God said, hey, come out.
That's right.
And so we want to let you know that the Open Portal is designed for your spiritual upliftment and your spiritual nourishment. And so I am Pastor Mark, yours truly. It has always been a pleasure and a privilege to serve you. Of course, next week, same place, same time, we'll do it all over again. Sleep tight, sleep sweet. Of course, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
heaven. Oh, the fullness of his love. Out of all, he chose the seventh, fresh anointing from above. I have tasted living water, nothing like this, none will find. Oh, the beauty of God's presence when we meet for holy time. Oh, when life here on earth is ended and there's only righteousness, New Jerusalem descended with the saints of God to rest. I'll forever sing God's praises, for he'll be forever mine. Then face to face we'll be together, God and I, Jesus and I, my Lord and I, in only time. Yes, thank you for the Sabbath day. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Jesus, bless your name.